What are we doing?
Okay, no, we go straight into it. There's the graphic. The women's Euro qualifying campaign draw was made there last week. I think the first games are up on April the 5th, and they're on over the next couple of months. So what's your reaction to that draw?
Very, very tough draw, Paul. I saw on Twitter that Denise O'Sullivan said, "Look, this is where we wanted to be," but we all knew it was going to be probably we're going to get a top two seeds, like a France, like the three of the top five teams are in that group: England, France, and Sweden. Very good teams. Different standard now to what we've been playing in League B since we got promoted to League A now, and this is where we're going to be really, really tested. But we would come on an awful lot. I think the game against Wales was interesting, Paul. Wales were in League A, and they got relegated, but they were playing top teams, and they were sort of a little bit better than us in that game at Tallaght Stadium there a couple of weeks ago. And you could tell that they were probably playing at a higher standard teams than we were. And I think that was a big aid to Wales in that game, and probably will show how good Wales can be in League B. But getting back to our own team, France, England, and Sweden, it's a very, very tough group. You couldn't have got a tougher group, and this will test us an awful lot. Hand on heart, Paul, do I see us in the top two? I can't see it. I'll give you an example. Before the World Cup, I know it's a while ago now, we played France in a friendly in Tallaght, and for the first 42 minutes, you could say we matched them. But once France up, once France upped the pace in that game, they completely destroyed us. They got two fortunate goals in the first half. When the second half, they just passed it around us, and you could tell that once they upped the tempo, once they upped their passing got a bit sharper, and the movement got a bit sharper, and their forwards took their chances and started to open up a bit of space between our defence. We couldn't live with them, and that's what's going to happen. That's what happens when you're playing at a lower level against the top teams. They find you out eventually. They break you down, and we now have improved since then. We are in League A now. We're fully entitled to be in this group, but for the first two go through to the Euros, the third and fourth place teams go into the playoffs. So we're guaranteed a playoff before we even kick the ball, which is very good. Which is a very good reason why we need to get to League A. I think with the rules of the playoffs is that we could potentially meet a League C team in the playoff semi-final, and then possibly League B team in the final if we get there. But just focusing on the group now, it's going to be tough group, Paul. I think we're away to France in the first game, and then possibly at home to England. We're actually having two games in the Aviva, England, and I think it's Sweden. We're playing in the Aviva. I think because of the French game, there's a clash on some. The Aviva Stadium isn't possible for the French game, as far as I believe. And going to be great occasions. We're going to be really tested in this group. We could possibly take points off the other teams, but to be fair, I can't see it hand on heart, but I can't see us getting to the top two. It'd be actually an achievement to get to third and not finish last in this group. That's just reality, Paul. They're playing at a higher standard. They've got a better class of players. Most of their players will be in, for example, in the WSL, in the Women's League, in England, playing at the top teams, or as the top teams in Europe. We've still got a few, maybe you could say, championship players in the lower than the WSL. For example, Katie McCabe is probably our best player. She's playing at Arsenal, but then other than that, you've got maybe Courtney Brosnan playing in Everton, but there's a few players playing in Liverpool as well. But some of the squad, a lot of them are playing in Birmingham City. They're looking to get maybe promotion to the WSL for this season. May or may not make it. There is a higher standard now of teams that we're going to be coming up against, which we wanted. As I said earlier on, Denise O'Sullivan texted, this is what we wanted. This is why we want to play a higher caliber of teams. But it's bad enough to have maybe one or two, but to have three of them, it's a huge test. But look, they might surprise us. But if you want asking me to make where do you think we're going to finish, I think maybe France and England might just switch in that graphic there. I think England will probably be top. They're European champions. They got to the World Cup. They had a shaky enough Nations League, but I think England will probably get regrouped now on for the qualifiers. Sweden, you could say, had a disappointment. Well, the beating USA in the World Cup didn't really probably do themselves justice in the next round after that.
Yeah, but Sweden got to the semi-final. Remember, they were beaten by Spain, the eventual winners. France were beaten in the quarter-final World Cup in a penalty shootout by Australia, and England got to the final and beaten by Spain. And
That's
England
the
are
caliber of
European,
teams, yeah.
yeah, and England are the European champions. Now, there's another thing too, Noel. The Olympics are on in August in France, and in the women's soccer, the Olympics is almost on a par with the World Cup, unlike the men's. Like in the men's soccer, the Olympics is sometimes treated as an under-23 kind of a competition where some of the teams they don't play their best players. But in the women's sport, in the women's soccer, the Olympics is treated on a par with the World Cup. Because I remember a number of years ago when the US won the Olympics, it was as big as the World Cup. So France will be at home in that Olympics. I presume England and Sweden are going to, I don't know for definite. So they'll be actually using this tournament as well to qualify, of course, but they'll be also building towards the Olympics, which makes them, they'll be really gearing towards it. Like if this qualifying campaign started in September, they will be changing their players and bringing in young players. So that will make it tougher again. But look at, as you said, Noel, that's what they want. For long enough, Ireland were down in the B's and the C's. They've improved. They qualified for the World Cup. They had a tough draw in the World Cup, but they learned from it. They won their Nations League. You progress up along the ranks, up to the top level. When you're in the top table, you're going to meet the top teams. So that's what you're looking for. And if you're a player, this is what you want. You don't want to be playing. You want to play the top teams and test yourself. So as individual players and the whole team and the management, this is what they want. And you said they do have the safety net that even if they finish last or fourth, they have a playoff or a semi-final playoff.
Well, that's true, Paul. I mean, we're fully entitled to be in League A. We progressed through the ranks. We topped our group in League B with flying colours. You know, no one could get near us in that League B. The caliber team, maybe, was probably the easier side of League B, not being disrespectful to the other teams. But this is going to be a massive, massive test. Now, how Eileen Diesel uses her squad, the performances of teams, because as I said earlier on in the example I gave in the French game, we make mistakes. These teams will punish us, no doubt. They're clinical. They're playing. It's Group A, 3 as you see there, yeah. And there's other groups that we could have got into, would have been a bit kinder to us. But here's where we are: France, England, and Sweden. You mentioned there England. I think actually England are part of with the Olympics, Paul. I think they were part of the UK and Northern Ireland teams.
Yes, of course.
I think they all come together for that, yeah. And then, of course, obviously France are hosting it as well, yeah. So, and of course, Sweden are, as you said, are a very, very good Olympic team as well, and a World Cup team. So yeah, couldn't have gotten a tougher draw. But look, Paul, I think we'll learn a lot from this. We will hopefully have a good crowd at the Aviva Stadium for the England game. I'm sure we will. I think for the Northern Ireland game, I think we had 33,000. I think with England now, maybe could have a full house. You know, it's possible. We had a great occasion. I think it's great to see these games, Paul. You know, because with women's football going up and up, higher profile, you want big games. You want games that test yourselves against the best. And I'm sure our supporters will get right behind them, because they had another record with Tala. The one disappointment, Paul, I think a few people have mentioned it, is that when tickets have been sold for the Tala game there against Wales and a few others, they have been sold, but unfortunately people just haven't turned up, whether it was the weather or whatever, or other circumstances, they could say. It's a pity, because when the tickets have been sold, you think that people would turn up.
Yeah, I suppose, no, the only here saying it's not an excuse. Sometimes the games are on at a very bad time in terms of traffic and getting parked. Now, I was never at the Tala Stadium, but from what I can make out, and I'm open to correction, it's very hard to get parked in there. And a lot of the times are on what we would call the rush hour, people coming home from work.
Yeah.
And the traffic I know you might say it's not an excuse, but a lot of the supporters for these games would be able to say, maybe there'll be a lot of families going, will say, you know what I mean, will say, and you want to be parked near, and you might say it shouldn't have an impact, but all these things have an impact too. Do you know what I mean, will say?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just a pity, Paul, more than the complaint, Paul. It's just where a lot of people are coming from, you know, because you know, when you sell the tickets, you know, it is a shame that people look for circumstances. You said for families, school in the morning, because most of these games, the qualifiers will be on a Tuesday or sometimes even a Thursday night, so it can be difficult for people to come up to the country, no doubt. Weekend games are much easier. I think that one of the benefits of the Aviva game when they had against Northern Ireland was on a Saturday afternoon. So it's much easier. People get to work. People can make the weekend out of it. Whatever. It was much more kinder, and I think the England game possibly is on the weekend as well. So that'll be even more of a boost. Look, I think they've shown got to the qualifier for the World Cup, won the Nations League group. They've done brilliantly the last couple of years. Irish women's football has progressed an awful lot in the last 6 or 7 years. From Colin Bell to Vera Powell to now Eileen Gleeson. It's progression every time. And
no, just to move on the conversation, sorry for cutting across you. Is that you mentioned there about the squad? Is it vital now that the squad is it's not the fifth, the first after an 11, it's not even the match day squad, but you have to have a full squad out of maybe 30 players or more, because and the depth of that squad, because players will lose form, players will get injured, players will get suspended. Do you know what I mean? And it's crucial. And I believe for the game against Wales, that friendly match, they brought in a young player. She had played underage with England, the underage system. Her name is Murphy. I can't think of her first name, but she's a very, very
Emily,
strong
Emily,
Irish
I think, if I'm not mistaken.
So
yeah.
she's now qualified for Ireland. She's cleared. So that's crucial. And I think she's a young player too. And that you need these extra couple of players, because your squad, it's not just your 11 or even your 23 match squad. You have to have players who can come in and be of equal quality. And would that be crucial for these games?
It will, excuse me, it will be, Paul, because the squad now is going to be hugely important. And just another note about the squad that you mentioned against Wales. Denise O'Sullivan was injured for that game, and it was clearly obvious in midfield in particular that her presence was missed. Niamh Fahey actually got injured it was more of a precautionary because it was a friendly, Paul. She sort of got injured in the warm up, which means Diane Cowell had to come in. Now, I'm not dismissing the players that came in, but we have players that we really can't do without. For example, Kenny McCabe. If anything happened to her left back, we're in huge trouble. I mean, she sometimes plays left wing, left back. She really is the driving force of that team. If she was injured out for a couple of games, she's a huge loss. The standard is with Katie McCabe, and then there's the big drop off. We need more and more quality in the ranks, Paul, to be quite honest with you. In certain areas we can't do without. We can't do without probably Niamh Fahey or Louise Quinn at centre back. Courtney Brosnan goes, which we have highlighted, Paul, that if Courtney Brosnan was to get injured, we feel that Grace Maloney and the other keepers haven't really been given a chance in the Nations League. Dead Roberts friendlies, this unfortunately now, Paul, we can't really try out a few players, to be honest with you, Paul, because in competitive games, if you throw too many people in who are making their debuts or who haven't played with Ireland for a long time, you run the risk of the balance of the team being
no, just before we finish up, sorry, just the last question. And this might be, well, look, I'll ask the question anyway. We're here to talk about things. Should Ireland maybe say, okay, look at that draw, say the odds are they're going to finish either third or fourth. They'll do excellent to finish third, I think. Then it's a kind of a league system, but then in the qualifier, the knockout or the playoffs is the real. So at the back of their mind and the back of the mind of the manager and her staff, you should be thinking about that too. Yes, you do your best, of course you do. You're up against the top teams, but ultimately it's to try and qualify for the Euros. And when you finish in this group, will not decide that, it's the playoffs, because the odds are we're going to finish outside the top two. So maybe should you be thinking about that?
I think, Paul, to try out to improve your squad, I think, Paul, when it's mathematically impossible for us to finish in the top two, which I'm afraid could be very early, because we've got France away and in England, we've probably got the toughest start. Say if we were to lose our first three matches, say if we were to lose our first three matches, that's us pretty much out, particularly the first two. I could understand that, but I think we should go all out and try and get results early in the group, because if we lose a few games early, chances are we're going to be in third or fourth place anyway. So I believe to expand the squad, improve the squad, try out a few things, that we should always try and do that, maybe, Paul, when it's mathematically impossible to be finished in the top two. I think we should put your best foot forward first. If that doesn't work out, we can try a few things later on in the group, because whatever happens, Paul, we I don't know, I think you and I both agree, third or fourth is the best. Third is probably the best we can get, and that's how you play off. Fourth is playoff as well. So I think we have to be in good form. The best team has to be put forward when we get to the playoffs, because we don't want to go into the playoffs maybe in too much of a downer.
Yeah.
Because we could get upset too in the playoff, where we've lost a lot of games and losing becomes a habit. Yeah. So hopefully the team will be fine tuned by the time of the playoffs. But if you ask me to call, Paul, probably fourth is where we're going to finish third at best. But I can't see us finishing the top two.
Yeah, we finish up now, and again, as I said, this is where the players want to be. This is where everyone involved in women's soccer want to be. As we said, it only 5 or 6 years ago, they were training, they were changing the tracksuits inside in the toilets of the airport, and everything was a Mickey Mouse behind the scenes. And while they were doing their best on the pitch, they're now moved up at this level. So we wish them the best of luck. And as I said, there's always a safety net there, but take the games as they come and give it their best shot. Okay, just hang on a second there.